what terrorism is and how it works is traced back for explanatory purposes to Al-Qaeda.
The most important thing governments do is public safety. You know, practically the first words in the Constitution are preserve domestic tranquility.
We're especially grateful as well to the president of the Trends Research and Advocacy in Abu Dhabi, Dr. Ahmed Al-Hamli, whom you will be hearing from in just a moment. This is a unique opportunity, I think, for us to begin to discuss this wider issue of terrorism, of countering violent extremism, and bringing together a set of regional voices as well.
I want to thank Mr. Brian for his cooperation and co-organizing and hosting this event. I wish also to thank Michael Stoll and his team at Orfalea Center for our continuing partnership.
I think this is probably one of the key ways to really understand a problem, is to bring people together to think deeply about it.
We don't have to fight everyone's battle, but we do need to stand for the right things.
Very often what you're dealing with is a mutually escalating conflict where the military intervention on the part of the state aimed at containing or ending terrorism, in fact, is throwing gas on the fire.
The Islamic State is better understood as a revolutionary movement that has learned, practiced, adjusted, and honed a successful politico-military doctrine in their state-building campaign.
And so when an 8-year-old says to me, I want to be a suicide bomber, I don't even think the 8-year-old knows what that means.
It brings together historians, political scientists, critical thinkers to really cover and address the same issues around the growing threat of Daesh.
What makes Daesh dangerous and what makes it troublesome is their innovation.
Right.
That every time someone does something different, we need to adapt to it and we need to learn from it. And this is partially because of the changing world and globalization. It's partially because of technology and its effect. It may have to do with factors far from our shores that are sociological and local.
Okay.
But as our security leadership needs to study it closely, and I think we can learn a lot from the experts at the conference here today.
A lot of statistical analysis on the correlation between things like repression and rises in violence.
Organizations in the Middle East that are saying women should be treated equally to men are much less likely to use violence, much more likely to protest.
The way it's set up, we present, but then there are the people in the audience engage in conversation and really push at the speakers to really go deeper, and that's been really rewarding.
What can you tell us about what's spanning the public perception of threat?
There's a way of thinking that this could merge into thought control and to kind of Orwellian structures, especially in an Islamophobic atmosphere.
Political science has done a poor job of understanding children because they are neither man, state, nor war. They're not voters. And so as a result, we don't have good theoretical understanding of how children get involved in war.
The lessons of history are that military approaches to these problems, which very often have underlying fundamental political issues unaddressed, are very often counterproductive.
So getting a firm issue on the degree to which it presents a threat, or it's a problem and how it functions and so forth, is probably the most important foreign policy issue right now.
I'd love to talk about why the United States has consciously adopted a no policy in Syria, and how that looks. What making a policy requires, and why the administration decided not to make a policy.
Somebody joining Al-Shabaab in Somalia or Kenya might have very different motivations than someone traveling from Europe to join Daesh.
Recruitment of foreign fighters into these extremist groups such as Daesh or ISIS, looking at how men and women are recruited differently, and then also how the recruitment strategies change across language.
Absolutely no evidence for this claim that ISIS and Al-Qaeda are operating in Mexico. Curiously, this discussion happened at the time when the US was discussing immigration reform.
There are pre-existing structures, potentially around crime prevention, that could be used as a starting point.
One thing which IS has managed to benefit from to a great degree from its influx of foreign fighters is human capital. People who know how to use post-production programs, people who know how to direct a film, basically.
I feel like our project has certainly benefited from presenting it here and listening to what people had to say about it. And also, I think a lot of the presentations that others gave has offered some insight that we can use in our own research that I think will help push things further for the bigger picture for everybody.
I do think if one really wants a peaceful world, one has to address this issue of arms sales and how national security is addressed in different parts of the world.
ISIS isn't happening in a vacuum. It's happening in a particular moment in time in which around the world we're seeing massive social mobilization around identities. We see political instability in the region for a variety of factors, and those things are providing the foundation for the group to operate.
I just once again want to thank Stimson for their marvelous hosting, for Trends, for partnering with us and Stimson to bring this event to fruition, and to thank all of you, the participants, both official and unofficial, in terms of the discussion. I think we've had an excellent 2 days.